Okay.
Hello there. How's everybody?
Good. How are you?
Excited to be here.
Tired.
Tired? Why you tired?
I can't imagine.
Ah, you can rest when you're dead. Just catch another gear. Catch another gear. I'll just tell you what they used to tell us in Charlotte. You can rest, you can sleep when you're dead. Catch another gear. No, so we had another new doctor today, Stephanie Barber, did her final dissertation today on campus. I don't know. We didn't have a lot of folks to join us, but she did a great job. And we had four more. I had four more defense proposals, five more this week. Well, five in the morning. I got one morning. I got five defense proposals this week and two final defenses. So we've had a good week. We're moving right along. I said that to spur you on to great things. Mid cars. And I used Lauren as the good example this week. Um, with my law class when we were talking about local budgets, about how sometimes you have to raise money for things that matter, like paying for kids' lunches. That, you know, I showed them a teacher interview from one of my docs where they were complaining that some of their club money got taken. And well, they had lunch debt. You got to pay the lunch debt. That's a priority. You got to do the right thing as a principal. I mean, I hate that your club money got gone, but the priority was to feed kids. That's the way it works. But on local money, there is no state, federal, or county money that pays for lunches. That would be up to you. And I commend folks that understand that and go the extra mile to make sure kids get fed. Because you would used to think that that would just be an understood part of our business, but not anymore. All right. So what we got left on our schedule, let me share my screen. Let me close this side window here. It's good to see y'all tonight. Um, so what we have left, if I can get it to share, there it goes. Um, well, I had it pulled up. Where did it go? There it went. All right, so Lauren's doing our final presentation tonight of our book chapters. We won't have to do a makeup Zoom after Thanksgiving. So tonight will be our last time as we talked about. Again, thank you for the card. I've got it in my bag. Uh, I appreciate that. The gift was nice, but the card is what matters most to me. I've enjoyed working with y'all over the year or two that we've been associated. It's been great. I tell stories about you always and how much I love to go and see you. I like Goldsboro, but I love to go and see y'all. So it's been a good time, and I appreciate y'all playing along and participating. So the big thing is coming out of this semester with some momentum into dissertation. I'll do whatever I can to help you. You know, my shell is open. You can put stuff in, email me and tell me. We'll work on the AI or the similarity or whatever that we need to do. I know you've got committee people and that's fine, but if I can be a help of any way, I'm willing. All right. Let me stop my share and so Lauren can share and we'll move this along this evening. Again, thank you for joining us. Let me turn my camera off.
All right. Are you guys seeing my
We are.
now? Can you see it in slideshow?
Now we can.
Okay. I'm going to go off camera so that I don't lose you guys.
Okay.
All right. So I have the last three chapters, 19 through 21 of planning educational facilities. Oh, why is it not moving forward? Oh, there we go. Okay. So we're going to start with chapter 19, which is green schools. Um, for decades, school boards have kind of focused on controlling upfront costs, which often sacrifices our efficiency and sustainability of schools. And so what we're seeing now is that many communities are faced with rapid population growth, which is forcing our school boards to build quickly and within tight budgets. We know that, public education is not funded well. So we all are kind of working within the confines of some tight budgets. And it's kind of created a short-term view of building schools that's really ignored long-term costs of the maintenance, health, and
Yeah.
energy of our schools. And so by the late 20th century, we kind of had this environmental awareness, rising utility costs, and research on indoor air quality that sparked a shift towards green thinking in school designs. So throughout chapter 19, kind of the core question that we're looking at is how can schools serve both educational and environmental purposes? And so, what defines a green school? The U.S. Green Building Council, which is the USGBC, you're going to hear me refer to that kind of throughout this chapter, defines a green school as one that saves resources while fostering learning and wellness. There are two states that have developed guidelines for high performance schools that reduce costs and environmental impact, and those are Massachusetts and California. Green schools also address the entire construction process, so just from site selection and material choice, also to long-term maintenance. And then green is not only talking about the architecture of the building, but also it's kind of an educational philosophy. So it's teaching students to understand and care for the environment that was built that they can go to school in. The leadership in energy and environmental design, it's called the LEED framework. It was developed by the USGBC, and this kind of became like the gold standard for classifying sustainable buildings. Schools can earn points based on their level of performance. So platinum is the highest. It's really within 58 to 79 points. And that's obviously what kind of you would strive to if you were building a green school. Beyond design, LEED evaluates how well a building performs after construction, ensuring that systems operate efficiently. Dr. Lamb, I think Shaquetta in. Oh, is everyone in? Okay, never mind. We're all in. Sorry. I just saw my phone light up.
Let's see. I don't have any requests for anybody to admit. No text.
Okay.
No, I don't have any emails.
Is Shaquetta in?
I don't see Shaquetta. I sent the link out again right before.
In
She
Loretta. I
will,
think
she will, she will be. I just sent her a message.
okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
She was on the wrong one.
Yeah, that's the way it always works.
Okay, sorry. I just saw my phone light up and I glanced at it. Sorry, guys. I didn't mean to stop. So beyond kind of the design process, LEED evaluates how well a building performs after construction, which ensures that all the systems within the school operate efficiently. And so these standards really influence decisions about location, lighting, materials, air quality, and also provide accountability for school districts. Obviously, cost remains the biggest hesitation for school boards when they are building schools in general. There's the perception that green schools are extremely expensive. But in reality, research shows that there's a minimal increase in initial costs with substantial operations savings. The USGBC estimates that an average additional cost only about 2% to build a green school, but the savings accumulate annually. So schools can easily recoup investments through energy efficient lighting, HVAC, and water systems. And one of the things that Chapter 19 kind of highlights is that as educational leaders, it's important to request independent cost benefit analysis before final approval, because we know that transparency builds community trust. Existing schools can be modernized with low flow fixtures, high efficiency HVAC, and daylighting systems. Renovations not only improve comfort, but they also demonstrate environmental stewardship to students. LEED standards encourage curriculum integration where students study the building systems. So, for example, they can track energy usage or waste reduction within the green school. And so sustainability is not a one-time project. It's really a living lesson that is embedded into the daily operation and kind of the real world learning of the school. Green schools create healthier spaces, improved air quality. It reduces absenteeism amongst both students and teachers. There was a study that found that daylighting correlated with better performance in both reading and math. And so green schools kind of contribute to community renewal. There's less runoff, less pollution, and a visible commitment to the future. Environmentally conscious schools often become symbols of progress in their district, which inspires community partnership and pride. So kind of how does this relate to us as future district and educational leaders? In 2007, the National Research Council conducted a comprehensive review, which identified 45 findings and 23 recommendations that linked green components to student health and performance. And so it was limited in direct evidence, but the trend was very clear in that environmentally conscious design enhances the well-being and learning outcomes of students. And so as leaders, we must ensure that facility decisions consider long-term sustainability, student health, and community benefits. Green schools are not just buildings, but they are commitments to the learning, health, and stewardship of our student body. So chapter 20 is all around planning schools for safety. Historically, schools were considered safe spaces, but we know that within the recent decades, the perception of the safety in schools has changed significantly. Disasters, both environmental and human disasters, have kind of forced educators to rethink facility design. And so the key question really for us is how can we build schools that protect but still promote open and welcoming environments? Safety planning isn't reactionary. It has to be intentional, design-driven process that anticipates the risks that our students and educators could face each and every day. So there was research that compared principals and architects' views. Both school principals and architects agreed that visibility and line of sight are the most critical features when planning a safe school. Wide hallways, interior windows, and open gathering spaces allow for supervision and a quick response in the event of emergency. Conversely, schools with blind corners, dark stairwells, and closed off restrooms can invite unsafe behavior. Some modern solutions would include two-way entry vestibules, door alarms, and camera surveillance. I know in my district, they have actually just updated all of our schools. When I started 3 years ago, we did not have cameras in our schools. And it was shocking to me. I think my first week on the job, someone stole something and I said, well, let's just go look at the cameras. And they looked at me like I was crazy because they didn't have cameras. So now at least all of our secondary schools do have cameras in them. Principals have to play a key role in the design review. We've got to identify potential blind spots before construction even begins. Safety really begins at the front doors of our schools. Secure vestibules ensure that visitors are screened before entries. Architects recommend glass visibility. Principals emphasize control. There's got to be a balance between the two of those, visibility and control. Interior and exterior camera systems enhance supervision while protecting privacy when used ethically. And then we must include stakeholders in the safety planning. So think principals, SRO, maintenance staff, local fire and police. All of those stakeholders should be involved in the safety planning process. And then also it's really important that we hold regular annual safety audits to assess these systems and procedures. And I think most districts probably have those in place, but if not, as school leaders, we need to follow through with those things. All right. Let's see. So we know that kind of our buildings influence how people act. And so well-designed, clean, and cared-for spaces discourage vandalism and aggression. This slide kind of lays out some safety practices and just the impact that it has in the school. So whether it's controlled access, security cameras, staff IDs, and student uniforms, and how that kind of creates some safety. The goal is prevention and being prepared, but not creating fear in our students and staff. These tools are most effective when they're paired with training, relationships, and cultures that support trust and care. All right, so there's some case studies, and the first one was a gym roof collapse. During the school year, administrators faced an urgent relocation crisis. The district really rushed through 5 inadequate options, which placed students in kind of some ill-suited facility. It created temporary relocation for both middle and high school campuses. And what this did is it kind of resulted in them being in buildings that couldn't support their programs. So there were outdated labs, poor acoustics, and inadequate safety. And this scenario really underscores the importance of quality planning, even when under pressure. I think a lot of times when there's an emergency mid-year, we react instead of having been proactive and thinking through kind of a plan. And so just because they're a crisis, it doesn't justify compromising the educational or safety standards of our school and students. And so a few lessons learned and leadership implications for chapter 20 is that expediency does not equal good planning. And so a crisis obviously will accelerate timelines, but we have to resist sacrificing quality. Even in emergencies, we kind of have to explore all alternatives and engage all of our stakeholders and experts in the decision-making process. And every decision must be filtered through what is safest and most supportive for students. It's also really important that we continue to communicate transparency. If our plans are flawed or rushed, then it's really going to erode kind of the public trust. And our school boards must make evidence-based, not politically convenient choices. And I think so many times school boards kind of get wrapped up in the politics of it instead of making decisions that are evidence-based best practices. Chapter 21 was all about problem-based learning, and this was the last chapter of the book. Facility planning rarely follows a simple formula. So it's a kind of a complex mix of logic, leadership, and also local politics. Some issues are resolved by hard data, but others rely on judgment, ethics, and community influence. And so decisions often mirror kind of a power structure of the community. They reflect political, social, or ideological beliefs. This chapter opens with a story of a school board that removed a nurse's clinic from a new school design because a member equated it to socialized medicine, which is just a powerful example of how beliefs can override best practices. So as educational leaders, our role is really kind of to bridge the gap between facts and feelings. We have to ensure that decisions serve students' best interests and not what is most politically convenient. So there's a couple of problems that were presented in this chapter. The first is the Bramwell High School case and their declining enrollment. School closures represent one of the most emotional and politically charged decisions in educational leadership. And so in this case, strong academic performance conflicted with declining numbers, which is kind of your classic quality versus efficiency dilemma. The superintendent kind of had to prepare objective data as well as acknowledge emotional attachments. We really have to emphasize transparency and empathy. Our communities value schools, not just as institutions, but as cultural anchors. And so the question became, do we close the small school or do we keep it open for kind of our community's identity? And this problem really kind of encouraged viewing data and emotion as complementary and not competing factors in a decision-making process of whether or not to close a school and send all the students to a larger, newer, under-capacity school, or leave it open for the sake of the community and kind of the symbol that it's been in that community for so long. The second problem is around balancing stakeholder demands and fiscal reality. And this has to do with Madison County. In this case, really revealed how community involvement can expand project scope beyond approved budgets. This was a $1,200 student high school that was projected to cost $46.5 million. Based on all of the requests of the stakeholders, it pushed the cost to $51.9 million. And the stakeholders in this situation were teachers, parents, community members, everyone who was advocating for a different program need based on kind of their tie to the school. And so in this situation, the superintendent's role was really to facilitate collaboration. He had to prioritize essential spaces and justify reductions with data. There were 3 reduction alternatives that were kind of identified. Each highlighted that every square foot has a cost. And it really kind of illustrated that we must be structured and strategic and kind of not open-ended with our wish list, because if that's the case, then the cost is just going to increase each time we go to build a new building. And then finally, the third problem in this chapter is around renovation and renewal. So balancing disruption and progress. It had to do with Monroe County High School. And in this problem, we quickly learned that renovation was going to be more cost effective than replacement, but it does come with operational and instructional disruption as the renovations occur. Work did occur while school was in session. It was kind of a 2-year rotation system. They did kind of an incremental modernization that was guided by equity. So ensuring that all schools matched the newer facility standards. This project specifically involved extensive collaboration among architects, teachers, and administrators, which just kind of modeled adaptive planning amongst all groups. And so despite the frequent interruptions that it caused for students and families, the careful scheduling and communication did prevent major academic loss. So students still were in school and learning throughout the renovation. The post-project evaluation was extremely critical. The board kind of measured the educational impact, user satisfaction, and system equity, not just the financial completion of the project. And so for all of these chapters, well, chapter 21 and specifically, it kind of shows that problem-based learning isn't just a method, it's the reality of leadership. Real problems such as school closures, space disputes, renovations, they're rarely solved by one right answer, but they require critical thinking and consensus building. Today's educational leaders, district leaders, school leaders have to combine data literacy with political acumen and human understanding when making these decisions. And so as I was kind of wrapping up chapter 21, kind of one of my final reflections was just with each planning challenge, whether it be environmental, safety related, or political, there is a chance for us to lead with integrity and foresight in the process. Chapters 19 through 21 revealed that there's just an interconnected nature of educational facility planning, kind of how we design schools that are sustainable, safe, and strategically planned throughout thoughtful leadership. And each element really reflects not just construction priorities, but our values as educators in the process. And that kind of wraps up the book.
All right, let's go back to the first chapter there where we talked about green, or you did. You can close you can stop your
Stop sharing.
We're
Okay.
going to talk a little bit here. What's the problem with advertising green initiatives now? The political pushback.
It's political.
So one of the things that the current administration has been doing nationally is pulling the plug on a lot of green initiatives, a lot. A lot of the tax credits, a lot of the supports for businesses, for homeowners. We've pushed back on green because green is the pathway to climate change. And what is the current political climate on climate change? That there isn't any. If we stop talking about it, it wouldn't, why are we talking about it? It's not a thing. It doesn't exist. And unfortunately, green schools are a part of that whole, it's kind of like, it's a gateway, kind of like a gateway drug, or the same thing that Baptists believe about dancing. And it's dancing is a gateway to sex for kids. So they ban dancing. You've seen the movie, what, Footloose? They banned dancing in the town because they believed it was a gateway to sex. Well, a lot of folks believe that talking about green energy and green initiatives is a gateway to climate change in that discussion and getting away from fossil fuels and moving to solar and all of those kinds of issues. Now we love electric vehicles because we still do old school mining to get the lithium for the batteries, and it's like coal. I mean, it's like coal mining. It's kind of protected, and and the power that we use in those cars is still generated by fossil fuel plants mostly. So we can go along with electric cars, but when we start talking about green energy, we get into a political realm. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. I'm saying be aware of where you are. There are certain places in the state or in North and South Carolina where you could talk about green initiatives and it would be welcome. It would be appreciated. There's other places that it would not be. It is a political issue. It's not an environmental issue. It's basically my tribe believes this and mine believes that. And that would put you firmly in the tribe that believes in climate change, sustainability, all those issues. If you talk green, you're going to be, whether you are or not, you're going to get tarred with that brush. Just understand that. That's one of those really, really hot button topics. All right, moving on. We talked about safety. We went over did we not go over the inventory? We talked about how often you got to you check your buildings by law twice a month, fire drills once a month, check your building twice a month, and all those things. Have I told you the story about the was it South Chatham Middle School that I was asked to do an assessment of? All right, so I'm gonna do that right quick. This makes an excellent point, I think. Or it could just be a chance for me to tell a story. Who knows? All right, so Chatham Middle School. All right, so if you will notice, I mean, it's 2 minutes from 421 major highway. So if you were to commit some kind of a crime at this place, that was one of the concerns they had, that you could get away pretty fast. And so it's on a highway that goes right into the interstate. But right here it is. You can see you come in this way and you go around, and right here's the little crosswalk. Here's where you let your kids out right here, and you come on around and you go out. And so I went, and this was the first school that I'd ever seen that put the vestibule in. The glass, the bulletproof glass had to be buzzed in, had all the doors, all the windows. I mean, this place was like a prison. It was just incredible. It was the first school that was built into these new safety specs that we now just assume that we're going to have. And when I got done with my assessment and I went back to the office to talk with the folks that were there, and they said to me, do you think you could get in this building, or a perpetrator could get in? And I said, why would they want to? And they said, well, what do you mean? We have the most secure building in the world. I said, your job's to protect children, not the building. We said, wait. I said, now I probably have to practice a little bit because I'm right-handed. You notice the drive comes in. If I were sitting right here, the beauty of me sitting right there is, now again, I'm right-handed, but I could probably learn to do it left-handed. If I were sitting in a vehicle right here at this curve, and I let my window down, and I used an AR style rifle, it would eject all my cartridges right here in my back seat. I wouldn't even have to worry about my brass. And I could sit right here and shoot until I melted the barrel out of my gun, because guess what's right here? This is playground, unfenced, within 10 feet of the driveway. And when I was there's probably 300 kids right here in this area. Why would I need to get in the building? I could kill every kid you got. I could grab one, I could run off, I could shoot. And again, I could be on a major highway in another state, in another major highway in 2 minutes, and another state in what, 5 minutes? I mean, I could be out of town. But my point in this story, and that's absolutely a true story. But my point in the story is, we want to make our buildings safe, but that's not the real objective. The real objective is to make our kids safe. And sometimes we don't remember that. And we make the building itself secure, but then the kids just go outside, and we don't secure the access to the children when they go outside, or we prop doors open, because we have to be vigilant. Yes, about our buildings, but more importantly, about our kids. We need to make sure we're supervising them. We need to make sure that people can't just ride right up. They wouldn't even a fence. to that area there. Just you could just walk right out and grab the kid. You could just sit there and shot a gun until you melted the barrel out of it and then drove off. And so I've always tried to preach. The child is the important part here. Don't forget the child in all of this, and all the safety. Make sure that you're keeping kids safe. Yes, you want your buildings to be safe, but by extension, that would make your kids safe. But the kids part is what we're really after there on the school safety. Now, in terms of consolidating schools, I mean, we went through that a lot in my era, when I was going to school because of integration, and there was a lot of folks. But at the end of the day, um, there's a reason why people don't live there anymore and why your enrollment would go from 500 to 200. Um, and why you want to be cognizant of those people and their feelings. Obviously, if you've lost 65% of your enrollment, it's not a big part of the community. There's not really a community there. Um, the issue comes when you get tight on budget, and it's not from enrollment. Enrollment's the easy one. Well, it's never easy, but when it's fairly easy um, to make the decisions if the enrollment is that can't sustain the school. If you can't, like for a high school, if you don't have 300 kids, if you don't have 200 in elementary, it's fairly easy because there's not really the community has left the school. Why are you worried about keeping a school in a community that the community has left that school? The issue comes when you start talking about closing schools is when you're running short on the budget and you got 2 to 600 in them and the community's still a strong presence in those schools. That's when you have the real problem, from my experience. When it's just simply a budgetary thing. It's not lack of enrollment. Now, one of the examples given you about how we've wasted what little lottery money. Now, again, lottery money was never designed to pay to educate kids. It was only to help with the capital needs of a district. And it's not an allotment, it's pork barrel. That means we give you this money, you hire these people. We want to make sure that a lot of it ends up in the right pockets and most of it gets stolen. And that's the story of the cafeteria. What was it up in Stokes? I believe Stokes County. But the whole idea is they built a new cafeteria for a high school that was struggling to maintain an enrollment of 300 so they could stay open. Field of Dreams was a Kevin Costner movie. It is not real. All right. I'm going to say that again. And for those of you who don't know, I'll explain it. Field of Dreams was a Kevin Costner movie. It is not real. The catch line for that movie is if you build it, they will come. A man, build a ball field out in the middle of a corn patch. But if you build it, they will come. How many times have you heard that argument in school facilities? If we build this, if we'll do that, the enrollment will come back. We'll get them. Nobody ever built their way to prosperity. Because you build it does not mean they will come. When the enrollment leaves the school community, unless there is some major input of a business or something that would cause housing patterns or living, residency patterns to come back, they're not coming back regardless of what you build. I mean, within a year of completing that cafeteria, they had to close that school. They did not come back. They will not come just because you build a new cafeteria. But that was the argument. Yeah, this school probably needs to be closed, but if we'll build this new cafeteria, the enrollment will bounce right back. I don't know who was dumber, the people that said it or the people that went along with it. When everybody that either said it or went along with it knew it was a lie when they told it. They just wanted that money. They wanted some prosperity in their community, get a few construction jobs. They knew that it wasn't going to change the outcome of what was going to happen at that building. That's part of it too, is you can't, when you start getting that stakeholder input, a lot of them have ulterior motives about what they want. A lot of them have ulterior motives. and they're not educational. They're not financially sound. You end up wasting money. Now, have I shown you the buildings in Burke County that cost that superintendent his job back in the day? So I'll do that one now. This is what stakeholders want. That's why, you know, as I continue to tell you, the general public are idiots. Be careful about listening to them. So let me show you the next. All right, can y'all see that? You see all that stonework on that building? You see all that copper guttering? They let a bond to build four new middle schools in Burke County. They had to have a little extra money. They had to cut the budget in order to finish the second one. The other two didn't get to. Jim Wilson got fired. The new superintendent that came in hired me, but that's another story for another day. But the community members wanted archways throughout. They didn't just have those rock archways on the outside on the entrances like that. They had them all throughout the school, and just built big open areas that were unusable for God knows what reason. And had stonework and all this rock and all these things. And at the end of the day, they spent all the money on just, well, not quite two of the schools. Yeah. Because the community came in, we want this and we want that. Now, a lot of that is all the stonemasons that there's a pretty big contingent of that there in the Waldensian community of stonemasons. They got plenty of work for about 4 years. That was what they wanted. But at the end of the day, they wasted millions of dollars on those buildings. That's why, but now everybody there, oh, we must have that. Now, when they got the money to build the next two, you better believe they didn't have that. They built them like prisons. They had concrete floors and block walls. That was never going to happen again. But again, you got to be careful about these people that, this input. We want this and we want that. What educational value is that stuff? Or are you just trying to get your cousin a rock laying gig? I mean, that's a lot of it in these, especially the more rural of the places. It's, we want this, so, I'll get some money, or somebody I know gets money, or it'll get this work or that work. All these things that these folks want, you have to evaluate the educational value of them. And you have to be able to say, I don't care that they live in the community. You have to be able to say no. In what reality do we need all this rock work in a school? Well, we have the old rock school at Rutherford College that the Waldensians built back in the day. It's our heritage. No, it's not. It wasn't built for a school to start with, and they had rocks because they were too poor and too dumb to cut trees down. That's why they built with rocks. Not a smart crowd. And so, that heritage thing. Oh no, oh no. Um, a lot of times you may not be the person making the decision as the superintendent, but you have to be somewhat the voice of reason and get it on the record. So when you cross the overrun, by 200% and you build two schools rather than four, that, they're still probably going to fire you, but at least you can say, I told you so. That'll make you feel better. That it wasn't you that did this. And so a lot of these things, these costs, these emotional pieces, again, I would argue that if the community moves away from the school in terms of the population, that's an easier decision than the finances moved out of the district, and you got to start thinking about closing somebody. That's a viable school. If they no longer have the numbers, that's not a hard one. I mean, it's hard for them, but it's not a hard decision, and that's the kind of stuff you have to make. Some districts had to close some schools right before school started in August because they didn't have the money on hand to pay for the first month of school. We've talked about that. You've got to have the money on hand to pay for the first month. They didn't have the account balances, and they had to go in and they had no option but to do it. They closed Ruth Mount Vernon. Ruth Mount Vernon is that Ruth and Mount Vernon. They'd already closed Ruth and made and put them with Mount Vernon, and so now they've hit them again. But again, they were a small school, nothing in that community. Uh, that's the decisions that you make. You're not going to go close the Forest City or Rutland Elementary with that have 800 kids. You're going to go out to Ruth Mount Vernon. That's is that equitable? No. But when the community moves away from schools, then you have to too, as a school district. It's just that simple. That's just the hard facts of life. All right. That's my comments on those chapters tonight, Lauren. Great job as always. Y'all did an excellent job this semester on your book. Thinking ahead, I tried not to have too much heavy lifting, as I really want you to focus on your dissertation. 740 is the time when you got to come out of here with some momentum to get that proposal done this spring. Make sure you get your CEP in, your capital expenditure plan. Make sure you get that in. That's all I really worry about. You did a great job on your presentations. We had a good time. Everything should be in by December the 5th. Yep, December the 5th. I'll probably have grades in before then, but make sure that you do. Make sure that you get your evidences, your CEP into task stream, and make sure you do that AI statement and that role verification statement. This will be the last time you have to do that. If you didn't do some previously, put them in and I'll check them off. It's just a check off thing. There's no grade for that. Make sure you get all those in. What have I missed? I've got a list here. I've got everything crossed off on my list. What's on y'all's?
Clinical log? Do we have to do that
Yeah,
clinical
you got
log?
to do a clinical log. It's just 30 hours.
So just any work that we've done for the CEP or
Yep,
anything
yeah,
like that?
and you don't have to get it signed by anybody. Just it's self-reported. Just
Okay.
and just aggregate. This week I worked 5 hours on this. This week I worked 5 on that. It doesn't have to be a detailed internship log like for initial principal licensure where every hour is scrutinized. I did 30 hours on this. That's all you have to do. Don't hurt yourself on that one. That's a 15-minute, 10-15-minute deal. Make sure you get that in. All right. Well, I will see all of you at some point online and all of you at some point unless you wait too long till I'm old, unless you wait too long. I'll see all of you when you come to Gardner Webb. Hopefully, if you need a committee person, I can do content, I can do methodology, I can be your faculty COE rep. I can do any of the roles. Not those are all non-paid roles, is what I'm saying. Only the chair gets paid. And so I'm not trying to knock anybody. I've got a waiting list to chair, but I can be on as many committees non-paid as I want to be. So if you need somebody that can be a help to you, I do this every day. I'm not
Dr.
trying to do
Lamb,
work, but I'll be glad to help you.
Dr. Lamb, I I think I sent you something. I don't know if put it in the right place or not, but don't worry about it because Dr. Putman has rearranged.
I
So
saw it.
what I sent you,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
she
I
has
told you she would, though.
she has rearranged my chapter 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so I'll be working on that in the next week.
Just make sure that you manage that AI deal.
Yeah.
You know, we
Me,
talked about that.
yeah.
Don't let that go very long.
No.
Put it in my shell or somewhere where you can get that AI read on that thing.
We
Don't
are
don't
we
wait till you write 5 chapters and then come up with I had one this week, 61%, and had all 5 chapters written. And her only solution was to take stuff out, and then the dean rejected it. He said, "Where's all this stuff?" I said, "We had to take it out for AI."
Mm-hmm.
That's not a solution. That Kishana just emailed me a few minutes ago. Hers got rejected. She didn't put her instrument or protocol in, her interview protocol in, because it all rang AI. So she cut it out to get her number down under 20, and now it's getting, they're getting rejected. You can't just cut stuff out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We need to get it, we need to wash it, or rewrite it early enough that it doesn't affect the rest of your paper. I tell you what, it's driving me crazy when we start changing stuff in this chapter to try to beat the AI. Then it's not consistent. I'm getting all this stuff back about, it's not
Mm-hmm.
consistent. It said this here and it said that there. Oh
Mm-hmm.
my Lord. I'm
Yeah.
chasing ghosts. Kishana had one in hers, um, where when we cleaned it, it went from 6 to 8 to 5 to 8. Well, it said 5 to 8 participants in one area and 6 in the other. That's the kind of stuff that the nitpicky people get on and send it back over, stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
be real careful about, clean them often, and make sure they're clean so you don't have to go in and do major revisions. If you need to do major revisions, let me know. I'll try to help, but it's not good to get in that business.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think that's all. Jimmy and James are going to be joining me in the spring in Charlotte in 738, I believe. I think I have that section of 738 that they're in. So Jimmy and James are going to continue along. So don't forget about them. They'll be a little behind you, but we'll try to get them caught back up. But all the rest of you, I expect to see either work from you or an announcement that, by February, that you are defending. If not, I'll be on on a flyer to Hope County or somewhere. Um, don't think I won't show up. You know me better than that. You know I'll show up. But you all, if I have to carry you one under each arm, 2 at a time, you will all cross that stage. That's our job. No woman, no man left behind.
Amen.
That's our job. All right. It's good to see y'all today. Let's see if I got a picture on my phone for more motivation as we go out. I hear just as I am playing in the background the benediction. We're about done here. We're calling on sinners, lost souls now. Oh, look at us. Me and Stephanie today. Uh, she finished today. There we are. And that's in the conference room at Garden Web out at the campus today. All right. So that could be you standing there in front of the big board, but it has your name, Dr. Lauren Acom, right? We take the name on your slideshow, we put doctor on it. When you come back in, everybody goes, "Yay!" And you got your name to get your picture taken. It says it right there on there. And so you could be the next in line to be in 210 in Craig Hall in the conference room, and me standing there right there with you, or somebody right there with you. All right, that's enough. Our time is up. I will see you all. When you need to see me, just let me know. I'll send you the sign up sheet for the spring if you want to sign in and come and visit with me on one of our dissertation session days or evenings. I'll probably cut back on the evenings this spring because of bad weather. So that I'm not breaking my neck to try to get somewhere to get on Zoom at night. Um, and so I'll probably cut back on the night sessions. I always do in the wintertime. But we'll still be rolling on Monday and Friday. And I can always do Zooms at night by appointment. It's just me trying to get somewhere to do one, is the hard part in the wintertime. All right. Enjoyed it. I've had the time of my life. I've never felt this way before. I
Thank
swear
you,
it's the
Dr.
truth.
Lamb.
And I owe it all to
Thank
you.
you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. See you guys soon.